Do you trust Keir Starmer to tackle all of this? Let's get a word from Clare Muldoon, the broadcaster, an all-round nice person. Well, mostly. Claire, how are you? How you doing?
I'm really well, but you've never had a monologue as long as that before, Ian. Anyone would think it was your show.
Was it a long one, that one? I think I got into a bit of a riff when I started talking about Churchill's buttocks. I think that's what happened.
Well, it made me giggle, yeah,
it was
exactly.
It was a bit of a turning point. The abridged version clearly got scrapped at that point. Listen, well, I mean, let's have a little reminder, bearing in mind that Keir Starmer and Liz Kendall, she's the Work and Pensions Secretary, trying to cut down on this big benefit bill. On Tuesday, the white paper is launched. That is today, Claire.
Today?
Yeah,
yes.
Today.
That's
today
been
is D-Day. Yeah. Are you confident in this this new endeavour by Labour?
No, I'm not confident in anything at all. This Labour government can reliably roll out, reliably think they can roll out, or reliably put together. I mean, a white paper, they've got assisted suicide. In my view, they're assisting everyone to die earlier anyway, with the cuts and the taxes that they are imposing. Yeah. And they're also this ridiculous self-ID bill that's been brought in that you want to speak about later. But honest to goodness me, Liz Kendall sitting there saying, you're going to hear about reform. I'm fed up hearing about reform because it's not reforming anything.
Yep.
Absolutely not. The last reformation we had in this country drove a schism between the church in England, Scotland and Wales. It was ridiculous. All they want to do is divide and conquer. There's nothing about bringing people together at all. Yeah. And it's ironic that their name is Labour because they don't care about the ordinary working person. They can't even define that, let alone our Prime Minister being able to define what a woman is.
Indeed. It's
I'm
funny.
So angry.
You just mentioned assisted dying. Did you see that story, by the way, of the poster on the tube that is caused a bit of controversy where, I mean, I can hardly believe
Ian,
this is allowed.
I see them. I can hardly believe it. You've got Sadiq Khan, who apparently has the say-so and the final word on all the advertisements on TfL and the underground systems. He's banned junk food. Fine, fair enough.
You can't show a cream. You can't show a cream cake on an ad on the tube, but you can put a poster up on a tube, by the way, where which unfortunately some people use a train as a way of ending their life.
So I would say
to advertise assisted suicide.
I think that's worse for your health, your mental health, your physical health, than actually having a picture of a cream cake or a Mackie D's. Come on. And then he's got the hate preacher advertising an all-Muslim bank. What is going on in Londonistan? I am sick of it, Ian.
I think Khan likes it that way. Honestly, I think if he could hear us talking, he'd be fine with that. You can tell by the way he is at Mayor's Question Time when Susan Hall is trying to, reasonably question him. He kind of quietly, he dismisses that. He's representing London. He thinks that to represent a capital city is all about, the only thing you're meant to showcase is diversity, nothing else. There doesn't seem to be any other factor here. And apparently now assisted dying on the tube, for God's sake. Does he know how many tube drivers have to take time off work because they've been involved in an incident on a train where somebody has thrown themselves in front of one? And yet here's a big poster saying, if you need help assisted dying, here's the number to call. Really? Seriously?
But the pictures themselves, Ian, show people that are really fit and healthy looking.
Yeah, that's
not what this assisted dying is about. It's
absolutely.
So yeah.
It's a horrible poster, and I hate wading into a ban this or ban that.
Yeah,
but this is another territory, frankly. Let's look. Talking of another territory, here's another story. Judges at the Supreme Court are considering what a woman is today. They're not absolutely sure, so they've had to nip down to the High Court and get the judges to decide on this. Let's have a listen to Annalise Dodds. She's the current Women and Equalities Minister. It wasn't that long ago where she struggled to identify what a woman was. Have a listen to this.
Labour's definition of a woman?
Well, I have to say that there are different definitions legally around what a woman actually is. I mean, you look at the definition within the Equality Act, and I think it just says someone who is adult and female, I think, but then doesn't say how you define either of those things. I mean, obviously, that's then you've got the biological definition, legal definition.
No, with respect, I didn't ask for that. What's the Labour definition?
Well, I think with respect, Emma, I think it does depend what the context is, surely. I mean, surely that is important here. You know, there are people who have decided that they have to make that transition.
Oh, get in the bin. You have to, well, you know, you have to look at the context. No, you don't have to look at the context. That's a woman, that's a bloke. That's it, right?
Right, this in a nutshell has been brought down to be heard by the judiciary at the Supreme Court in London because of a failed appeal in Scotland.
Yeah.
Now, I placed this whole nonsense at the feet of the GRA of 2004, the Gender Recognition Act of 2004, because that was the one that protected the rights of trans women, I would say, at the expense of biological women. In all of these debates, I'm sorry, I'm not a doctor, I'm not medically trained. I am, however, a woman, 100% a woman. And I always like to quote Professor Robert Winston, who has said from outset, you cannot change biology. You can change gender, but you cannot change biology. So if you think that you might be a man trapped in a woman's body, or you think you might be a man trapped in a woman's body, or the vice versa, then the biological precept of that is you're not, right? It's a form of dysphoria. It's a form of bodily dysphoria. So therefore you think you are, therefore you are. That is their argument.
And there was
There's
a good...
so much...
Indeed. I thought a really succinct tweet from a councillor, Scottish councillor, Ian Gall, who said there are roughly 8.25 billion people alive. Not one was conceived or birthed by a man. I cannot get pregnant, carry a baby or give birth. Wasting precious time on debating this shows Holyrood and the SNP-led Scottish Government are not a serious government. Fair point.
Well, you know, they put a trans woman in charge of their rape crisis centre.
Yeah, I mean, that's the kind of, that's a sort of Sadiq Khan kind of thing to do as well.
Yeah, exactly, OK? But let's strip this back, Ian. I have got friends who are doctors, who are medically trained, and they have been in A&E and they have witnessed patients coming in, presenting to all intents and purposes as women, because under the GRA 2004, they can change their birth certificate. They can change their sex on the birth certificate. They present as a woman. They've actually got internal mechanisms of men that there was the issue with them and the patient didn't say. That man could have died because they were treating him as a woman.
Correct.
Now, that is just ridiculous. It's wasting NHS time. But moreover, that person who has presented as a woman, clearly biological male, they could have put their life at risk. Do people not realise that?
Well,
are we so stupid and lacking in common sense?
Yeah, you'd think by now, given how often we talk about this stuff, that somebody might have gone, hang on a second, can we just stop for a moment, take a deep breath and redraw this one? Listen, Claire, stay with us. More to come. Clare Muldoon is with us. Loads of great stories on the way. Keep it here. It's talk pulled out by the government. There will be no extra day off, Claire.
Well, this is a government who've said they want to get people into work, so it would be quite high and dry if they actually were to give some people a 4-day week for that actual week in May.
Point, yeah.
So come on. I really don't think we need another bank holiday. I think we need to, obviously, we've got Remembrance Sunday in November and we've got everything else. Let's just have a big jamboree if that's what we want. We can do that in this country.
I think we should have a bank holiday once a month, shouldn't we?
Well, I'm a freelancer. I can't afford a bank holiday once a month.
Well, there is that. But a lot of people only work 4 days a week anyway, so every weekend.
A lot of people don't even work. Apparently, I mean, 2.8 million.
2.8 million.
On the disability sickness, long-term sickness bill for the taxpayer at the moment. So, come on, do we really need another bank holiday? Let's have a street party if we want, and we will hear the platitudes of, there's not many surviving old people that were there that can actually remember it. We need to remember them as well. So, this pomp and ceremony is great. And that's what we do very, very well in this country. Have a street party by all means, but we don't need another bank holiday.
We do, Claire. We need the extra bank holiday. We need to celebrate 80 years. Not going to happen again, is it? We're not going to do 160 years.
Oh, you're going to go at 90 then, aren't you?
Well, you do 80, then you do 100.
Look, the world's oldest man has just died at 112.
Well, you've just brought us on to that story. I mean, here's somebody, you might have some, I don't know, it's a certain synergy with this man with these ripe years of 112, Claire. I mean, it comes to us all at some point. Maybe you quicker than me, but
what, 112?
Listen, yeah,
Gosh,
I mean, well, another 30 odd years, and you'll be there. Listen, John.
Oh, you cheeky.
Do you know what I found really weird about
I'll
this?
be dumped in a minute.
Is that
Why do you feel weird about it?
He was
Why do you feel good?
I'll tell you why it's weird. It's because this guy was a Scouser, OK? I was expecting him to live in a kind of, I don't know, the countryside of Japan or something.
Ivory Tower.
You know, eating nothing but rice and fresh fish on a daily basis. But dear old John was born in Liverpool. He was 112, died in Southport, became the world's oldest living man after the death of Vicente Perez. I'm not sure how old Vicente was. I think he was a few years older.
Was that the Mexican?
Well, I mean, he's Juan Vicente Perez.
I don't think they've actually managed to get his proper age. I think that might have been a bit like the Iliad. I think it might have been something told down the line.
What, you mean, you're talking about Juan here?
Yeah, because I think the ones before that were two Japanese. There was a lady and a man who were the world's oldest people, and I think we need to look to Japan for that if someone wants to live as long as that. Personally, I don't. I'd far rather just have a great life, and then when my time's up, my time's up.
Mr. Perez.
It would be assisted.
Guess how old Mr. Perez was when he died? He was the previous oldest man.
Was he 115, 16 or something?
173. I mean, isn't that incredible?
See, that's a lie.
It is a lie.
That's my... proves my point, Ian.
That's why we mark ourselves out as a different kind of programme here. We just make up people's ages. He was 114, OK? I mean, I remember seeing... I'm sure I saw John Tinniswood on something quite recently. This is the guy that's just died. And he looked to be in incredible form. I mean, just incredible for a guy that at that stage was probably about 111. So I'm 112.
Well, he had the pictures of him. He had great pallor. He looked incredibly well.
He did look good.
I think in terms of the assisted suicide debate, assisted dying debate on Friday, I think it's worth remembering that people can have really good lives and really good end of lives as well. Because we're talking about him now. And if he had, if he wanted to call this time, and if he'd gone down that route, if it was legal in this country, then the people who cared for him, the people who looked after him, wouldn't have been able to give their service. And that's another point of this assisted dying debate that no one dares speak about. No one wants to serve anymore. No one wants to have the responsibility anymore. It's ridiculous, the homogenising and the globalisation. It's as if we're living in a sim, for goodness sake.
That's weird, isn't it?
We're all individuals. Let's be individuals.
Well, dear old John is survived by a daughter, 4 grandchildren, 3 great-grandchildren. He's young, living as the 4th oldest British man. I mean, one of his great-grandchildren is 97, apparently. So, I mean, that gives you a scale of what we're talking about. I mean, I think it's incredible. The guy looked amazing. Apparently, he was he was intelligent. He was did a lot of walking in his youth as well, which good health, reasonable diet.
And there's a lovely quote from him when someone said, "So what was your secret?" Because clearly everyone wants to live forever these days. And he said, "Well, if anyone that eats too much, drinks too much, or walks too much, clearly they're going to do a lot of damage to themselves. So don't do anything too much," he said. Maybe you should stop. Maybe you should stop talking too much.
That's a good idea, actually. You get a lot of support on that proposal, Claire.
Talk show, wouldn't it?
I wonder if there's a tipping point where it doesn't matter what you go on to do. If you've done, if you've been once upon a time a smoker, and then you drink not a lot but a bit. You eat reasonably well, but every few days you'll have some sort of takeaway.
Ian,
is there a point where you can't do anything about it?
I think there is, I really do. And I think also, the Royal Castle, for instance, never smoked a day in his life, died of lung cancer. There's loads of, you'll hear people that have smoked all their days, drank all their days, and lived a long life. And then equally, you could be as fit as a fiddle, as slim as, an arrow, and still, get struck down with a deadly disease or something else. I don't think there's any rhyme or reason. I think your life is mapped out and that's it. Not to be too fatalistic about it, But there we go.
I've got 114 stamped all over me for my my projected.
Really?
I've always thought that, you know. Yeah, quite seriously.
It's more 114 pints, I think.
That'd be all right, wouldn't it? I'd be gone after 2. Listen, Claire, always great to get you on. Clare Muldoon, the broadcaster and friend of the show, with a little word or two on the big stories of the day.